Siomra beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that does be taking a pop at culture.
Sure look, sure listen. Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen. Oh, Conasatatu Ben is Misha Mihal McPatty, unbeloved podcast character, whose name I've forgotten at all, to be sure. But sure look, Benjamin, speaking of things nobody wants, we're going to be reviewing Rings of Power Season 2, because I've seen the whole feckin' thing. And we've got trailers for Never Let Go and Sonic 3, to be sure.
Sure listen, Michael, if that wasn't enough, you've been joined by a brand new bloody character who I haven't fleshed out at all. He's called Paddywhackery, and that's me, Paddywhackery.
How are you, Paddy?
Oh yeah. Sure listen. Sure listen, Michael.
Go on.
If that wasn't enough, right?
Yeah,
we're going to be taking a look.
The listeners off, Ben.
It probably has. Goodbye to you. Sorry. Sure listen. If that wasn't enough for you, we're also going to be taking a look at some fairy smut, some hibernophobia, and some fear of the Irish.
Oh, that sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Yes, but it's very specifically in a fantasy setting because we lack either the credentials or the academic acumen to go into depth on racism towards the Irish.
Oh, yeah, no, that would be a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
We wouldn't really be the people to handle that sensitively, Ben.
No, Paddywhackery would be. He's gone off to do that now.
Yeah, he's a good lad. He's a good fella. He's a good sort. Benjamin.
Good sport. Yeah.
Speaking of not being qualified to really be doing this, is there any way the listeners could give us some feedback?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't run away yet, that must mean you like us. You really, really like us. So do us a favour, right? Wherever you're listening.
Spotify.
Yeah, you could be on Spotify, Michael. You're
Apple
right.
Podcasts.
Could be on Apple Podcasts, Michael. Spot on.
The now defunct Google Podcasts.
It's gone. You're probably not listening to us there.
No, it's gone.
Wherever you're listening to us, you can leave us a review either on the show or leave us a little comment down below on Spotify or on YouTube if you're listening there. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're over there. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm very low. It's coming into that darker part of the year. September's upon us. It's rained all day today. I'm going to get the SADS.
Oh no, the seasonal affective disorders.
Yeah, and do you know what my doctor said to me?
Fuck off, Colopy. Hop on.
Fuck off. Get away. No, he said, do you know what you need for that? There's a particular vitamin you can get. It's called the praise of strangers. And I said,
yeah.
There's probably a few ways I can get that.
Yeah, vitamin pod, they call it.
And if you're still here for some unexplicable reason, unexplicable, jump up there and give us a review.
Certainly not explicable, anyway.
Jump up there and give us a review.
Hop up there, give us a review on one of those platforms. We won't list them again because that'll just start the rift chain again. We'll never get this done.
If that bout of professional repartee and witty banter wasn't enough to prove our credentials, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get a second opportunity very, very soon.
Ooh.
Michael, once upon a time,
last year,
there were two young Irish books.
Oh yeah, go on.
And they said to themselves, I read comics, you read comics, don't you?
Yeah, the two Johnnies.
The two Johnnies reading comics. I like that one because she has big boobs.
That's so do I. Yeah, I love big boobs as well. We get on the radio.
The really sad thing about that impression, ladies and gentlemen, is that not only is it accurate,
yeah,
but also would probably get us more listeners.
Go on, give it a listen there because we both like big boobs.
But come here to me, ladies and gentlemen, Collecting Issues, the bi-weekly comic book club, is coming back, but with a facelift, Michael.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like Demi Moore in the new film The Substance.
Yes, exactly. That looked creepy, didn't it? It's sad we didn't do a trailer review for that. But
yeah, I was on holidays.
There's been a few tweaks and changes, Michael. From now on, it's going to be Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club.
Because the feedback we got was people didn't know what bi-weekly meant.
That was the primary.
Is it twice a week or is it every 2 weeks? Or is it a podcast for people who can't make up their mind I didn't agree with that personally. But,
It was a shitheel take from some bigots.
yeah.
But anyway, we're coming back.
People who
up to you,
don't
ladies
love
and gentlemen.
boobs.
We're kicking it off at the end of September. You'll be able to listen to our full, nearly hour and a bit long podcast
Oh, Jesus H. Christ. Is it going to be that long?
on Superman All-Star. Or All-Star Superman, if you want to say it properly. By Garth... No. Oh, I'm going to have to edit
Quietly,
this.
Frank Quietly, isn't it? Who did it?
It's Frank Quietly and Grant Morrison. We Granty M, as we call him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, we grant DM.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye on your socials because there's going to be some brand new channels popping up for Sherlock all around collecting issues where you can follow along, read along with us week by week, where we'll take it in sections and discuss it with you in some Discord channels and the like.
Oh, how exciting.
And then at
back.
the end of it, exactly. And then at the end of every month, we're going to take all your feedback, all your nice ideas, all your subtle insights, all your not so subtle insights, and we're going to talk about them on a podcast.
Ben, it's so exciting that Collecting Issues is back, because Collecting Issues is a real podcast, not like this spunk of random jism that we throw at the wall every week.
Yeah, which is just an excuse for two men to talk to each other. But, you know, we call it a podcast.
It's not a podcast, it's
because-
just shite talk, really. Let's be honest.
But if you can't stand us shy talking, Michael, there's another bit of good news.
Oh, there's less podcasts.
Yes, there's less podcasts. We've started a Substack for Sherlock. Listen.
I don't know what that means.
It means that you can, if you cannot stand the sound of us, much like we can't stand the sound of the two Johnnies, Michael, you might head down to the link just below and click on the brand new Substack where you can read the shite that we talk instead.
Oh, fabulous, Benjamin. I have never heard the two Johnnies speaking. I have no idea what they sound like.
Sadly, and again rather tragically, we were spot on.
Oh, where we were bang on. That's great news.
Bang on.
Benjamin, what's a
very worried.
Substack? I don't know what a Substack is. Is that
just
like a
little blogging.
Discord?
Little blogging platform, Michael.
It's a little blogging platform. How exciting.
Yeah, so you can head on down there and you can read the stuff that we're saying because we've kicked off some brand new ideas, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing one exhumed episode a month. We're doing one quintessential episode a month. And all of those things generate really fun lists.
Oh, we love lists. The internet loves lists.
We love lists. And we're actually relatively humorous. That was very close to a pat in the back there, Michael. So we're going to have to ease off for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Fuck.
relatively speaking, quite humorous. So we're going to be putting those up on Substack from now on, so you don't have to listen to us anymore, ladies and gentlemen. You can just read if you want.
I still don't understand it, but that doesn't matter, Benjamin, because I am a foolish and simple Irishman.
Michael, I'm lucky I'm even literate.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that, and that's got nothing to do with Paddywhackery.
It doesn't, Michael. But come here to me. Today's
What?
topic is pretty interesting. Michael, a couple of weeks ago,
Yes, go on.
I was inundated on my TikTok For You page
Go on.
with a pack of people either praising Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh, I've heard of it, Benjamin. It's like a Sucky Stackhouse, but for the 2020s.
Spot on, Michael. Spotty Onicus there from
That's
you.
my Roman name.
Well done. But yeah, so that's essentially what it is, Michael. It's fairy smut, as I said at the top of the episode.
Isn't True Blood fairy smut, Ben?
It is, yeah. It's a bit of fairy, vampire, werewolf, whatever you're having yourself, fantasy trope smut.
Yeah. Didn't True Blood start out as vampires, but then very rapidly degenerate into were-panthers and werewolves? And Suki was Suki a fairy? Did that only happen in the books, or did that happen in the show too?
It did, yeah. No, she was a fairy. She had magic blood.
yeah.
That's why everybody liked her.
Magic fairy blood. That's why everyone found her so sexy, not because she was played by Anna Paquin.
But, you know, hey, sure, whatever. But, Michael, it was either people praising the fairy smut of Sarah J. Maas or some slightly more... I'm going to have to choose my words very carefully here.
Choose your words
Michael.
very carefully, Benjamin, because there's millions of women across the country who are wanking themselves into oblivion on these books, and we're going to turn them all against us now if we have a go at it.
Well,
That's
they
what it
weren't
is.
against us already. There might be. There are certain people, Michael, who are perhaps more aligned to the idea of critical analysis of a text.
What you're suggesting?
Well, it's quite hard to critically analyse when you've only got one hand free to turn the pages.
Yeah.
But look, that's fine, Michael. But there are a few people who are a bit versed on Irish history that have taken a look
Benjamin.
at some of the depictions of fairies and otherworldly creatures in this book and gone, is this a bit racist? Is a bit...
Benjamin, when you've said that's fine there, I heard the narrator from that comedy TV program saying everything wasn't fine for Benjamin.
But dear reader, that was not the case.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Bit racist, bit sexist. Who's saying this, Ben?
Michael, anyone with a passing understanding of either geography and or Irish-British history is saying this. And I'll explain why in a moment, Michael.
Please do, because I'm coming for you, because I don't like people declaring things that are smutty racist. So you're gonna have a tough one convincing me this week, Benjamin.
No, I'm sure I am, Michael. So look, let me share something with you, Michael, here on the screen.
No, you
Here on
share
the
something with me on the screen there. I'd love to see. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what you've got going on.
So this is the map, Michael.
Yeah.
Of the fictional lands in Sarah J. Maas's The Court of Thorns and Roses.
Now, Benjamin, I'm going to go out on a limb here and point out to you, that's just England and Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. That was very geographically blind of me. That is Great Britain and Ireland. Excuse
Just
me.
Britain.
I'm sorry, Scotland and Wales.
Just Britain. Steady on now. Steady on. It's Britain and Ireland.
Yeah, well, as we call it here, as we now know it here, all right Britain.
Yeah.
Passable Britain.
So, Michael, that's fine. Look, there are plenty of authors that have based their cultures, their world building, etc., on existing states and nations. That's fine.
Benjamin,
Yeah.
the Seven Kingdoms from Game of Thrones is the Great Britain and Ireland stuck together and turned upside down.
Exactly.
This has happened a million
Michael.
times. In the old world of Warhammer, the islands of Albion were Great Britain and Ireland. Like, every fantasy world that's ever existed has two kind of slightly barbaric, Celtic-themed islands off to the northwest somewhere.
Absolutely. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, Michael, right?
Go on.
But this is where it gets interesting. So it's interesting that you said the seven... What are they? The seven what in
Seven
Game of Thrones?
Kingdoms?
The Seven Kingdoms. Thank you very much. Because in this, Michael, Prythian, which is Britain...
You can tell because it's literally the same word.
Well, fun little fact about that, Michael. Apparently, that is a very close amalgamation of the Welsh word for Britain.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, so it's apparently a little bit based on that. But, Michael, there are 7 courts in that,
Oh, go on.
in Prythian. And,
Yeah.
Michael, anyone with a passing familiarity with the good old fae, fairies, and she knows that we're always on about courts, Michael, and fairies.
Massive stuff. Big part of the whole, for want of a better term, lore.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing. There's the Unseelie Court, which is the hidden court. There's, the Fairy Court, which is that. There's all kinds of things, Michael, that exist with courts and things like that, and that's absolutely fine. So
Is there a
there are
Seelie Court
7 there. Everything north of Cornwall in Britain is where those
Yeah.
7 kind of courts lie.
Yeah,
And
go
then
on.
things get a little bit messy because we get British aristocracy, but it's fairies.
Oh, yeah. Good.
And Prythian is a very civilized place with a caste system and all the things in place that one might expect from a Briton.
Oh, they're fairies, but Tolkien elves.
Exactly. There you go. Good man.
They're just
Good
posh
man.
English people with pointy ears.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good man. That was
Now,
very
if you are going to come into the land of Prythian, you're going to have to wash your feet.
easy. Pretty much. Pretty much. So, that's fine. And then, if you take a
But
look
ladies
at
and gentlemen, every time Ben says that's fine, he means it isn't fine.
It
Just in
means-
case you're wondering where the twist is coming here.
much like the narrator, the fictional narrator that Michael introduced a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
dear reader, it wasn't fine.
It wasn't fine.
Michael, if you squid your eyes over to the left of that map there,
Oh, there's a little Ireland there. A little Ireland.
and that's called Hybern, Michael.
Oh, Benjamin, that's like Hibernia, the Roman
That's like the
name for
Latin
Ireland.
name for... Yeah, that's like the Latin name for Ireland. Hibernia, Michael.
Freaking cold.
Yeah, exactly. And Michael, it's similar.
Benjamin. I'm sorry, Benjamin. I'm just going to interrupt you there. If we're talking Latin, I would prefer if you called me by my Latin name, Spotizonicus.
Spottis. Sorry, Spottis. My
That's
mistake.
quite all right.
Would I call you Master Onicus? What is it?
Master Onicus, yes.
Master. Pardon my Latin, Master Onicus. But come here to me.
Yeah,
That's
I'm here.
fine.
I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening.
There's fairies in Prythian, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's fairies in Hybern as well.
Oh, yeah, there would.
But these fairies, Michael,
Yeah.
are the bad fairies.
Oh, savages, are they?
And not one or two of them, Michael. The whole fucking island is
good.
the bad fairies.
Good.
So there's some pretty interesting... Look, there's a lot to be said about the post-colonial narrative of British parallel, shining light, example of high society, everybody else, savages in the dark.
Fucking savages, every last one of them.
That's a classic British colonial narrative that has existed for many years. Sarah J. Maas is an American author and has been swept under the spell of far too many Bridgertons by the looks of it, and has based her world on a good old-fashioned caste system and given very little thought to the rest of it. And that's fine.
Yeah, it wasn't fine, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
it wasn't fine, ladies and gentlemen. That's grand, right?
Go on.
I can forgive that. And if she just used the map and she maybe made a little bit of a tone-deaf decision to make everyone on the island to the left of the British island that isn't Britain savages.
Savages, absolute savages, every last one of them. Ben, are they at least sexy savages, though?
Yeah, of course they are.
Oh, then it's grand. Then it's grand, Ben. We need this. We need this. This is what we need.
We need this.
We don't have a lot else going for us.
So every single person on the island
Yeah.
is basically...
Yes.
I can't remember if it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Jared Butler in P.S. I Love You with pointy ears.
Look, Ben, it doesn't matter. They're both equally guilty.
They're both equally guilty, Michael. Everyone on that is a twisted Wild Mountain Thyme. What's happening over there, right?
Feckin' fabulous.
And I could forgive it, right? That's grand. Whatever.
That's
Make
fine,
us sexy.
yeah.
Do what you
Wasn't
like.
fine.
Sexy fairies. It's a
Yeah.
trope as old as time. Well, it's a trope as old as Sucky Stackhouse.
Sucky.
And that was grand. But then, Michael, I did a bit of digging on what goes on in the backstory here. So,
Benjamin, I think it's a load
Yeah.
of fucking.
there's a lot of fucking, Michael. It's hard to actually pick out the lore between the fucking. There's a lot of fucking.
Did you try? Did you give it a read?
Yeah. So, what's kind of ironic about this, Michael, is that traditionally, as we just spoke about, colonial narratives generally frame colonizers as the good uns, bringing civilization to whatever poor, downtrodden, backwater, dark-soaked region of the world they find themselves in.
Galway.
Galway being a prime example. The Burn. But come here to me. Where this
Leakslip.
gets super interesting, Michael, is traditionally what also happens when you peel back the layers of that colonial narrative is you find out there's an awful lot of fucking slavery.
Not great stuff.
Fucking stacks of it. So, Michael, there is humans in the world of a court and thorns, of Court of Thorns and Roses.
I've no idea what it's about. What's going on in it?
So, way back in the day, Michael, the story of Hybern is pretty bad, right?
Okay.
Way
go on.
back in the day, the Fae used to enslave the humans.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Terrible, terrible stuff, right?
No, probably grand.
But then,
they're-
Michael,
They're creatures. Yeah, go on.
there were some decent elf fairies in Prythian
Oh, British fairies.
that said, no, give up your old sins now and don't be enslaving the humans. Or rather, no, give up your old sins and don't be enslaving the humans.
Because they're British.
I'd imagine Patrick Stewart would play whatever the boss elf is in a Court of Thorns and Roses.
yeah, with a bad wig.
With a bad wig. We can only hope. But Michael, there were, of course, detractors from this. There were, I don't know, a contingent of people who said, no, I like my slaves.
Yeah, it's great.
Shan't we?
You don't have to do any work yourself.
And Michael,
Yes.
in this narrative, it is the denizens of Hybern that want to
Our
keep
lads.
their slaves.
Oh, no.
So the Irish want to keep the slaves. And Michael, this is where I tapped out. This is where my post-colonial brain could take no more. And I went, fuck off. Whatever about us being enslaved, that's grand.
That's grand. Yeah, we can take that.
But if you think for a second I'm taking the blame for their shite behaviour, you can forget about it, right?
Now, Benjamin, you are aware that this is a fictional narrative about non-existent creatures.
Yes, but
Just check. I was just checking that.
much in the same way that all things are fictional narratives, all fictional narratives carry a message, Michael.
Go on.
And I don't know if the message we want to receive from texts is an author borrowing a lot of our culture, mythology, naming, etc. There's a Morrigan in this, Michael.
Of course there is. Yeah, there would have to be.
There's a Dagdan in this, Michael.
Oh yeah, is there a bab?
I didn't quite get that far, Michael. But there is anyway. But they're all awful, Michael. They're all savages that want to enslave humans. And naturally, Michael, our heroine ends up in a love triangle with one bad fairy and one good fairy, and that's how it works. But Michael,
Eric Northman.
Exactly. It's an Eric Northman bloody, what was his name?
Bill Pullman.
I think that's the actor. But
Well, that's Bill Paxton
anyway,
you're thinking
look,
of.
I couldn't remember who he was, but anyway, yeah. So it's pretty interesting, Michael, because in this world, they are just monsters. Like the people on the Hybern Island are monsters, and they have Irish affectations. They have accents apparently that use heavy guttural vowel sounds and the like.
To be sure. Ben, here's the thing though, right? I know some Irish women. Now, not many, mind you, but I do know a few. And there's lots of Irish women I know that are reading these books, and they are fucking mad for them.
Michael, let me be clear. Sorry, let me be 100% clear here.
Right, you be clear.
If you would like to read some fairy smut,
Yeah.
and as Michael said earlier, pleasure yourself into the abyss,
Oh yeah.
off you go.
Wear
I am not
yourself down to the nub, Ben.
I am not objecting to these books on the premise of prudishness or piety or an asexual want.
Yeah. This time.
I am objecting to these books because they depict an Irish parallel as a pack of vicious savages hell-bent on killing humans. When that was the British Empire, not us.
Yeah, we had no choice in it, apparently. Ben, be quiet for a second, though. Aren't they being depicted in these books, though, as noble, sexy savages? Because it's my understanding...
No, they're not noble.
No, sexy savages. Like dangerously sexy savages. Like Colin Farrell.
Yeah. Ah, yeah.
But because it's my understanding from these books that it's the king of Ireland that the women all want the main character, let's call her Anya, to end up with. It's Faye.
Is it?
Faye
Is that what's happening?
Faye is the main character's name. I actually do know that. I know a little bit more about this than I'm letting on for comedy purposes. Yeah, I think he's the preferred choice in the same way the majority of your average human women were more interested in Eric Northman than Bill. I think with all women's wank fiction, you basically start off with a mysterious stranger, and that mysterious stranger has noble roots. Like he's a king in exile or a prince, or he's your Aragorn character or your Bill or some sort of, banished nobleman who when he goes home turns out to be super important, and then you go and you live the life of a princess of that realm, like Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes.
But when that gets boring for them, they always introduce a bad boy version. So a
Yes,
more
they do.
evil vampire. So, when Angel got boring, they got rid of him and brought Spike in.
Oh,
So
I fucking love Spike.
when Bill got boring, which was after the first 15 minutes, they brought in Eric Northman.
Was Bill ever not?
Yeah, I don't remember Bill being not boring. He did say, "Suck his man, Eric." And that went down in pop culture history. But this is pretty standard for women's / fiction. And not having read a lot of it myself. But in this, it seems to be that the Irish lads are the sexy ones that everyone is hoping she's going to end up with. But look, I don't fucking know.
See,
I'm
so
spitballing
I
here.
think I think occasionally what happens with something like that, and it's a fair counter, absolutely. But I think what happens with someone like the King of Hybern, or I think it might be the Prince, I think it might be Dagdan in this, because the King of Hybern is only ever described physically. He's not necessarily given a name in the first one, from what I'm given to understand.
No, yeah. No, the sexy fella shows up in the second one.
Oh, does he indeed?
The sexy
Does
Irish
he
fella.
indeed? Does he indeed?
When
the
the-
Colin
when the
Farrell, the
first one-
Farreller.
The Farreller, I think he's called. Or
Farreller.
the Irish name, Unfarrelocked.
Yeah, classic.
He shows him and he goes, "Is Misha Unfarrelocked? August Tom A going to take you away to my realm."
So,
That's how he says realm.
and I think there's probably nothing wrong with a little bit of sexy Irish representation. I'm all for it.
Are you?
I'm all for
Are
it.
you though?
But Michael, the depictions of the Irish in this book call them violent, drunken, ruddy-faced.
Oh,
A lot of that. A lot of that. We're ruddy.
yeah.
We're dirty.
Oh, yeah.
And I suppose the issue I would take with it, Michael, is yes, there's a sexy king, but the one good savage, or the noble savage, is a
Yeah.
classic colonial trope as well, to say, oh no, we like some of you.
Yeah, like Friday.
Like Friday, he was great and did whatever I said.
Yeah, he was great. Great native.
Yes, we like Tom down by the cabin there. He's good. He's good. Michael, the one good savage, or the noble savage trope, is a very dangerous thing, because it doesn't do anything to address the depiction of the rest of the denizens of Hybern the island, who are all depicted using the old depictions of Irish people in early American history.
But the early American history really is just late British history.
Isn't it? That's a nice point, Michael. That's very
Thanks.
good. I like that.
Thank you.
Tidy.
Thank you.
Tidy. But Michael, there's a bit more to it than just, will you not just let the girls have their sexy Irishmen?
Go on.
Because I will, Michael. I will.
You won't.
Have them.
You won't.
Have
You're
them.
forever keeping me away from them.
Have your... You can't have my Michael. I need it for a
Yeah,
podcast.
you can't have them. That's why you wouldn't
Ah.
let me go to Comic-Con last weekend.
That's it. That's it. That's definitely the reason we didn't go to Comic-Con. Nothing else.
Not because we don't know what Has Been Hotel is.
We'd just be swamped with people trying to explain it to us. But I suppose, Michael, what's harmful about A Court of Thorns and Roses is that it
Nothing.
wholeheartedly and
Sorry.
without a critical eye
Yes?
delves into a long narrative of misleading depictions of the Irish. And
Yeah, but I mean, this is the risk you run anytime you're basing your... This is like, you would expect the same level of cultural sensitivity here as if you got an Irish person writing a Native American story.
sure.
They'd get some stuff right, they'd get some stuff wrong.
Yes, but I think the point very often being made, Michael, is that Sarah J.
wrong than
Maas
right?
just gets it mostly wrong, takes what she likes, and then uses narratives that are very out of date and quite poor.
Ben, I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to say this now, right? I'm just going to say this out loud, and I'm going to voice my objection to this whole concept. I don't
Okay.
mind that. I don't think a cult. Now, this is my personal opinion, and this is speaking as an Irish person talking about Americans in particular adapting Irish mythology. Don't mind. Let them do it. Let them off at it. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think. I personally don't think a culture owns mythology. Mythology
That's
is, you know, it changes and it adapts and it travels, and you know the Norse legends we have today would probably be unrecognizable to actual medieval Vikings because they were formed and reformed and shared, and now we're in this era of peak global communication and it's happening faster and people are more defensive about it. But maybe in the olden days there would have been a woman in a feckin' monastery in Meath and she'd be having an old tan shandy thinking about this fella Thor who she'd heard rumours about, and someone had written down on a bit of smut. And if a real Viking had seen it, it'd be like, that's not my Thor. That's depicting us all as savages. We're just doing what we need to do to survive. You know what I mean?
We're going to have to get
Don't
that
know.
made into a t-shirt. Hashtag not my Thor.
Not my Thor. I don't know if I have a point there or not, but I just wanted to get that across that, personally
you're very-
speaking,
Michael,
I don't have an issue with this. I'm not a
you're
huge...
entitled to your opinion,
That's it. Even if it's wrong.
even if it's wrong. And Michael, from now on, I'm going to call you Uncle Mick. That's what you're going to be called on this podcast.
No, you may either
Yeah.
call me Spotosonicus or Mihal McPaddy, the famous character.
Those are the two. But
Those are your two
Michael,
options.
as I was saying, this gets
Yes, go
into kind of a few deeper narratives that depicted the Irish in not the best light back in the day. And there are a few terms that kind of lashed around here. Now, for anyone looking at the thumbnail to this episode, Michael, they're going to see the phrase Hibernophobia on the title, because I quite like that one. It's quite silly.
Afraid of Ireland.
Afraid of Ireland. So we use that term as it's a highfalutin term, Michael, as you'd say, to look at prejudice or discrimination against Irish people, culture, or the Irish language. Very, very common during the early colonial rule of England and the later colonial rule of England. They weren't great about us, Michael, and they often depicted us as savages.
Yeah, remember that whole fake famine where they tried to use it to wipe everyone out?
Yeah, do you remember that? Remember that?
Ah, not great.
Oh, it was a disease in the potatoes. Or is it you, Lord Smithington III, not giving us any food? No, it's the
This
disease.
potato thing, I said.
I said it was the potato. Did I stutter?
Did I stutter, Paddy?
You should take those potatoes out of your ears. Oh, you don't have any.
Well, they turned to mush.
Fucking British lords during the famine. What a pack of dicks. Huh?
Yes,
but then,
Richard,
Michael...
I am Lord Richard Dicklington.
Richard Dicklington. And come here to me, Michael.
What? What are you
That
talking about?
is kind of the most broad umbrella term that we could use. Hibernophobia encompasses everything that we could talk about. But then we get two more that we hear quite a bit. There's paddywhackery, which is the crude stereotypical portrayal of Irish people, usually in a mocking way. For example, when you go to London and you're in a pub and someone says, "You Irish?
You
Say
Irish,
33."
Paddy. Oh, if you got, say 33, Paddy, put this potato on your head.
Yeah, very good. So our impression of them is as bad as their impression of us,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
That was my London character, Dick Richards. He's the
Dick to his friends.
yeah, Dick to his friends, but he's a descendant. He's a long line of descendants from Lord Richard Dicklington.
So that's quite common, and you'd see it there. And then that evolved into the term stage Irishness, or the stage Irish. And we've talked about this in the podcast a few times in our various episodes for St. Patrick's Day, Michael.
Go on.
I think we'll just republish this one for St. Patrick's Day and take St. Paddy's Day off this year, Michael.
Yeah, it's probably easier because we are quite lazy.
We are quite lazy. It's
Funnily
in
enough.
our nation. We can say that. It's fine.
We can say it's fine because afterwards we're going to have a drink and I'm going to punch Ben in the head.
But stage Irishness, Michael, was a character that was created specifically to mock the Irish and was very, very common in British plays back in the day and some American plays as well, because American racism was perfectly fine. It was absolutely grand. But Michael, a lot of the research for this podcast, and I have to give the flowers where they're due, Michael. I have to give the flowers where they're due. A lot of the research for A Court of Thorns and Roses came from the blog Living Liminally. We'll probably link it down below, Michael, just to be nice and fair. But yeah, so it's a very succinct kind of little summation of some of the slightly less tasteful depictions of creatures within that book. There's also a little bit of discussion on it on TikTok. There are a few people that are really coming at it and trying to understand why she's portrayed basically the Irish in that particular way. But Michael, she's not the only one to do this.
Oh, classic.
It's fucking everywhere, Michael.
Go on.
In everywhere. And we're going to take a look at a few of the places it is. So, you've watched something this week, and we're going to get into it pretty soon, Michael. But one of the ones that surprised all of us was when Rings of Power Season 1 came out.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Everyone's beloved hobbits, Benjamin, everyone's beloved pastoral English little round people suddenly became dirty muck Irish hobbits.
Yeah, and it's a very particular subspecies of hobbit that loves it in the muck.
They love it in the muck. Now, they're very racially diverse, funnily enough. Much more racially diverse than the English hobbits. And therefore probably a bit more representative of modern Ireland. But most of us, Ben, don't have twigs in our hair anymore.
No,
we'll
I
run a
do,
comb.
because I live in a small famine hovel. But
Yeah. Most of us will run a comb through our hair, get the twigs out before we go on a work meeting.
Yeah, some of us, Michael, leave it in for flavour. Some of us do, but that's a cultural choice, and we respect that. But Michael, we were all watching Rings of Power. I'm just kidding. Nobody watched it, but
I did. Don't know why.
We were doing that, and then the Harfoots appeared, Michael, and I was reading some of the wiki articles about this, some of the breakdowns, and they were using words like the Harfoots are a rustic sect of hobbits.
Oh, yeah, rustic. That's a good way of putting it.
And I found other phrases like an earthbound sect of hobbits.
Oh, yeah, very earthy. Loads of twigs in their hair.
And Michael, they weren't thick as two short planks. They were simple-minded folk.
Honest, down-to-earth, God-fearing folk.
Sauron-fearing folk, I don't know. But it's pretty interesting, Michael. All of those are stock phrases from the notion of the noble savage. Again, very similar to the stage Irish, the noble savage is a stock character that was used in a lot of colonial narratives to represent, the one good savage, as I said earlier on, but one who was uncorrupted by the perils of modern civilization.
Yeah, or the muck.
And the
one who's not
fucking
drunk.
loves the muck. So it's pretty interesting that we went from, hobbits who lived in very fancy little abodes, Michael,
Lovely little house. They got a little dicky bow on.
to caravans with a tarp sheet stretched over the back of them.
Yeah, and loads of twigs in their hair.
It's pretty bad. So I remember that one being seen, and I remember going, oh, don't love this. Don't fucking love this. And that put me in mind of another one, Michael, that I watched a couple of years ago, which was Mad Sweeney from American Gods.
To be sure.
Now, I think what's most interesting about Mad Sweeney is that we've seen him depicted only twice, technically.
Isn't he played by an Argentinian?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He did a great job, though. It's pretty good Irish
He did
accent.
a great job. And in fairness to him, he nailed it. He did a good job, sort of, but we'll get into it in a second. So we only ever see him once in the novelization, but he's given a much larger role in the TV series that came out, I think it was HBO. He was given a much larger role in that. And what's interesting about him is, in the novel, he is depicted as a rowdy, fighting, drunk, constantly conniving, stingy Jack, Shane McGowan-esque creature.
Now, Benjamin, is that because in American Gods he is America's version of a leprechaun?
Exactly, Michael. So you've hit the
I've accidentally
nail.
stubbed on your toe there.
No. I'm happy for you to get to the point, Michael, before I do, because it means I've framed it quite well.
I know you were about to say I'm happy for you to get it. I know you were about to say that and you fucking dug up. I'm actually quite clever. I just play an idiot on TV.
And in whatever Sarah J. Maas book is written about you.
To be sure,
and Mick, the simple, noble, earthbound Irishman, Hybern
I've
Faye.
got loads of twigs in my beard because
Hybern Faye took off his shirt and said, isn't it great when the big gold coin comes up above the horizon and we can see again, missus?
Oh, to be sure. I can't. Can you hear me over the sound of all these twigs rustling in my beard?
But Michael, Mad Sweeney was pretty interesting because there was a lot of subtlety there, and Neil Gaiman, who is a bad egg, and
Well, allegedly. I don't know. I think he just likes to do weird sex stuff.
You cover the allegedly, and I'll cover the pejorative branding with the stick. But yeah, so Gaiman did a rather good job of making it clear that the gods in this America, in that version of the book, are corrupted forms of the originals. They are the faint rememberings of belief that came from the old country in this particular case. They are the slowly dwindling depictions of gods that came over centuries ago And as the belief has dwindled, it's kind of a picture of a picture,
A photocopy of a photocopy.
yeah, decaying in your wallet over time. And it's very important. And the gods there are shaped by popular perception of Americans of those gods. So, for example, Mad Sweeney is drinking, smoking, fighting, hardy buck, Shane McGowan-esque creature because that's how Americans view the Irish.
He's a fighting Irish, Benjamin. He's a leprechaun from the Boston fighting Irish, whoever they are.
And then, Michael, we got the TV adaptation, and they took a look at it and they went, yeah, that's pretty subtle. That's some layered nuance there. Nah, don't like that. Don't like that.
Make him bigger and sexier.
I'm just going to make him a big Argentinian man with a Shane, or with a, what do you call it, Conor McGregor haircut, some suspenders and a wife beater, and he's an old Celtic god, and he loves fighting because he's a Celt.
Let's put it this way, Benjamin. He's still a more realistic depiction of an Irishman than the WWE wrestler Sheamus.
Oh, Sheamus is basically Mad Sweeney.
Yeah. I was surprised they didn't get him to play him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real muck up there, I suppose. It would have been nice to see. If you're going to go for it, just fucking go for it, Just give it a fucking whirl.
Fill it in.
Exactly.
Robert from Finglas, I think is his name. No, Stephen's his name, isn't it? Stephen from Finglas.
But I mean, look, there's
What?
plenty of examples of it in American fantasy in particular. But Michael, one of the things that I found researching for this episode was H.P. Lovecraft's true distaste for the Irish. Now, my good lady friend
Yes.
sent this on to me, Michael, because she was quite intrigued by the concepts outlined in this here episode, the thoughts behind it. And she sent on an article to me, and it just breaks down how racist H.P. Lovecraft was towards the Irish.
Did she get this out of her folder that she keeps on racist depictions of the Irish?
Yeah.
The old folder.
Yeah, the folder,
There's
the
just
big
a
folder.
There's a big picture of me with a green hat on the front of it.
That's it.
That's the one, yeah. I've seen that.
That's
folder.
it. And
I've
we've
often
drawn,
wondered what's in that folder. But now I
we've
know.
drawn in a Sharpie a little jug of poutine hanging from your hand.
Oh, very good. In a shillelagh.
And a shillelagh. But H.P. Lovecraft, Michael, racist to everyone,
Yeah, almost equally racist to everyone, fair play to him.
but really didn't like us. And there are two particular works, Michael, that really fucking start hammering the Irish. One of them was The Moonbog in 1921.
Oh, he sounds suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to make fun of the Irish, just include bog in whatever version of the story you're going to
How very
do,
fucking dare you, H.P. Lovecraft.
And the fun thing about the Moonbog, Michael, is it's set in a small town in Westmeath.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Mullingar, is it?
Mullingar, pretty much. So he wrote this as kind of a post-meal entertainment thing for a place that he hung out, a social club called the Hub Club. And it was done on a Patrick's Day theme.
Very good.
So he just
hit
decided
us on our
to
national
fucking-
day.
Yeah, so he just decided to lash us out of it, Michael. And the depictions of this are shocking, Michael. So it's a classic unnamed narrator goes to a town.
Oh, yeah, that's how all H.P. Lovecraft stories start.
Yeah, exactly. And he's
I
quite
was in a
intrigued.
town and I went mad.
Yeah, and he went along and he finds a lovely bog and he says, I'll go visit the bog at night. And all the Irish people who are cowards and shrivelly little people go, no, sir, don't be going over to the bog after hours. And it's a whole thing. That's probably because they were making poutine over there, Michael, and they didn't want anybody snooping.
Yeah, that's classic. That's what it's like in Mullingar even to this day.
Even to this day. Again, we can do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's
we
fine.
can do this.
Fine when we
It's
do it.
fine.
Because we're from Dublin, you see, which is essentially England.
But anyway, as it turns out, Michael, Lovecraft leans on an authentic Irish legend, in fairness, which comes from... We have a book of mythology, Michael, in Ireland called An Leabhar Gabhála, or the Book of Invasions. And in that, it outlines a series of different invaders that came to Ireland. And one of those groups were known as the Partholonians.
Oh, yeah, from the Parthenon.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they got wiped out by a plague.
Oh, good.
Bad luck for them. But anyway, Michael, turns out they're over there in the bog, the big ugly bugly monsters, and it doesn't go great for unnamed narrator number 1.
Does he go mad?
He goes a bit mad. Yeah. As you'd
classic.
expect.
Yeah, classic.
As you'd expect. The other one he wrote, Michael, was called The Rat in the Walls, and that was in 1923.
And this is just about a fella called Darren who's living in the walls of his house.
I think we've unintentionally created the next Blind Boy short story there. But we should pitch it to him after this, Michael. We just get in touch with him. We're going to lash it up there. But yeah, so this time we get a named American author, Michael, or American narrator. He's called Delapore. And as you might expect, Michael, he's beset by tragedy. He loses his son in World War One. Yeah, he goes mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he does a little bit of investigating. He moves into his old estate in England, Michael. Not Ireland, as you might expect. But he frequently hears the sounds of rats scurrying behind the walls. And he says, oh no, that's no good. I'll have to exterminate them, Michael. So he works with his son's former comrade.
Oh, yeah.
And he starts to do that. And it turns out
that they were the Irish.
There's a huge underground city, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath the mansion. And they've raised generations of human cattle to supply their taste for human flesh. And they are heavily depicted as having come from Ireland. They settled there. They
good
were
old
the
Irish
former
stock.
servants.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, I think.
So the rats in the wall are in fact the Irish, Michael, in this case.
Yeah. Now, did he hate us more than he hated the Italians, though?
Probably not.
Or the
Probably
Arabs?
not, Michael. No, he really didn't like them. Sure he didn't.
No. Or
Sure
the
he
Africans.
Yeah. Well, I suppose one of the interesting things about the rats in the walls, Michael, is that he uses the Irish language for the figures that have regressed to a more primitive state. They speak in the Irish language. And it's not an approximation of the Irish language. Apparently he literally looked up books and just took wholesale phrases. So it has a very good representation of Gaeilge being used correctly. But it's
that's
for
good, isn't it?
horrible, savage rat people that eat humans.
Oh, much better than Buffy Vampire Slayer, where it was just a Dublin bus timetable.
I remember that. Classic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably a good time to pitch what's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Sure, next week we're going to be taking a look at the quintessential Buffy, so get yourself prepped for that. We're not wrapping up. I just thought that was a nice segue to tell people about.
Oh, very good. Okay, keep telling them then.
The quintessential Buffy. Ladies and gentlemen, we started a brand new series here. We kicked it off with the X-Files, and we want to know, what is the essence?
Sum it up for us. Distill it down.
The soul, the spirit, the je ne sais quoi of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The comment tout appel of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The voulez-vous coucher of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
and we'd love to know what that is. There are a few ways you can get in touch with us to let us know. You can find us on the interwebs. I'm not going to do the whole spiel, but the best way to get in touch with us, ladies and gentlemen, is either follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, have a look at the bloody Substack, because we'll be doing polls up there. We can do polls on Substack, Michael.
Substack seems to be the way forward. Look, I've never heard of it, but sounds great.
The best thing to do, Michael, would probably be to hop up on the Discord linked below in the description and give us your thoughts.
Hop up on it.
Hop up on it. But come here to me, Michael. We're going to have to finish the big topic.
Oh, go on, quick.
We're 50 minutes in, Michael.
Oh, okay, we better wrap it up then and talk about other stuff.
Yeah, we've got to wrap it up and talk about it and other stuff. Just don't be racist to the Irish lads in your fantasy stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there are other examples. Do get in touch with us and let us know what they are. In all
We'd
the places
love to
I
hear
just
about
explained.
more racism about our lads. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Look, I've done you a big favour. I've figured it out.
Oh, yeah.
I figured out why Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power exists.
Okay, that's good.
So, here's my theory, right? So, as you know, Amazon is a massive multinational corporation. And one of the pressing issues in the world at the moment is global warming and climate change. And
Oh yeah.
some of the biggest contributors to global warming and climate change are data centers, massive energy-sucking centers of computing power. They're powering the cloud, Benjamin. And data centers, for example, in Ireland, are using up more electricity than all households combined.
Yeah.
And that is a massive cost for Amazon. And obviously, therefore, a huge factor in combating climate change and meeting commitments to reduce consumption. So on that note, what I think has happened is Amazon have built around the tomb of J.R.R. Tolkien. They've set up a massive copper resistance wire chamber. And then they've made this fucking show. And as J.R.R. Tolkien is furiously spinning in his grave, they are harnessing that for infinite free energy to reduce their dependence on fossil fuels in their massive data centers. Because that is the only reason I can think of for this fucking travesty to exist.
Blind boy, that's 2. You owe us 2 acknowledgements.
You can do that as well.
That's
Just
2 acknowledgements you owe us, Blind boy.
J.R.R. Tolkien, or as they would say in this show, J.R.R. Tolkien, spinning in his grave, generating infinite free energy for Amazon. The absolute bastards. Look, Benjamin, people were hoping that season 2 of Amazon's The Rings of Power would be better than season 1. It is not. It's worse. Now, is it a terribly made show? Yes, it is. It's absolutely awful. It's confusing. It's a muddled mess. They made some decisions in season 1 for the sake of having twists. So if you remember, big spoilers here because I don't care a jot for this show, but they decided that Halbrand, and this is how you know it's a fantasy program made in the year of our Lord 2024, because everyone overly rolled every R in every fantasy world. So Halbrand is Sauron. And he was Sauron the whole time. And no one knew that he was Sauron until the final episodes. And then that was the grand reveal, the unnecessary 2024 twist that this had to have to satisfy modern audiences, or as they would say in this, modern audiences. And that fucks the whole timeline. So the whole timeline gets fucked up by this reveal because they have Halbrand make 3 rings of power for the elves with Celebrimbor. I'm only slightly more annoying than it really is in the show. This R rolling to show that it's a fantasy. It's ridiculous. In the land of Mordor. So they had him craft the 3 rings of power with Celebrimbor.
Jesus.
Before they realised he was Sauron. And if you have any inkling of The Lord of the Rings, you know, or the Silmarillion, you know that the elves crafted their 3 rings in secret, separate from Sauron's influence. But
They did, yeah.
if the elves crafted their rings separate from Sauron and free from his influence, then where can you put a twist? Where can you put drama? Where can you have Galadriel? Where can you have Galadriel and Elrond chasing each other around having misunderstandings? You can't. So you have to fuck up the whole timeline just to make it try and make it make sense. And look, adaptations sometimes change things.
They do.
And that's fine. Listeners, it wasn't fine. But adaptations sometimes change things, and that's fine, Benjamin. That's absolutely fine. That's as fine as you find racism against the Irish in fiction.
I do not.
You do. But this feels almost like it smugly thinks it's cleverer than Tolkien. Like, we've spotted some things that Tolkien missed. The whole point of Lord of the Rings and the whole point of that era of fantasy writing is they are grand, mythic, epic tales. They're not human and relatable. You don't see yourself in Aragorn and go, oh, Aragorn is so like me. We have such similar struggles. You see Aragorn and you think, oh, I'd love to be as cool as Aragorn.
Yeah.
But in this, they've brought everything down to a relatable level. So the elves, rather than mythic, almost perfect beings, they're squabbly, nitpicky, untrusting shite bags. And the dwarfs, who are supposed to be stubborn and, intractable, most of them are, except one or two of them who aren't, and kind of explain to the ones who are that they shouldn't be like that. And then they go, oh, aye, right, yeah, we should probably get along. And you're like, oh, fuck. Christopher Tolkien can spin in his grave as much as he wants. He can take a hop. But J.R.R. Tolkien, spinning in his grave furiously, Ben, generating infinite free power for Amazon. They have made the orcs, Benjamin, the orcs in Lord of the Rings are evil.
Yes.
They are a race either created to be or corrupted into evil.
Yes.
But in this, the orcs are a put-upon victim race who don't want to be Sauron's army. Sauron's army.
Thank you.
Thank you. They want to stay at home with their wives and their little orc children, and they don't want to go and do any more wars.
What do you mean orc children?
They have little orc wives and little orc children.
Bullshit, Michael.
They come out of the ground in the what was that fella's name? The little fella from New Zealand?
Peter Jackson.
They came out of the ground in Peter Jackson, but I think I see the thought process where someone, and you and I have discussed this in our personal private lives when we're talking about, say, tabletop role-playing games and saying, are orcs inherently evil? Can we just live a high fantasy and kill them willy-nilly? Or, if this one's good and can be redeemed and we're killing them all, are we the baddies?
No, he's just one noble savage, Michael. He's an outlier.
Very good.
Yeah.
Like that little goblin we met in Fandolin.
Yeah, he's just an outlier. He's just one good savage. The rest of them are shite.
We can kill the rest of them. Well, not anymore, because now they have little orc wives and little orc babies, and they don't want to be fighting in Sauron's war. They want to kill Sauron and escape from the shackles of indentured. That's not a word. To Sauron.
Are you telling me, Michael? Because you've clearly invoked the phrase indentured servitude there.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that the orcs are Irish in Rings of Power?
There's probably a bit of it. I don't see them as, thankfully, by modern American standards, they're not coded, to use the American term, as any particular race in the way the Harfoots are Irish, or at least, British rural savages, and therefore by default Irish. There's a little bit of Welsh in them and a little bit of Scottish as well. The actresses' Irish accents have got worse, which is quite funny, because they were quite good in season 1, and I think someone might have had a word with them and said, it's not sounding Irish enough, it's sounding a bit too subtle and realistic, could you ham it up a little bit? And she went, do you mean like this? And they said, fucking spot on. Hold on a second.
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Let me just check the power readings. Oh yeah, he's spinning away. Yeah. It's rubbish. It's absolute dreck. I can't believe it's been made. There's just so much wrong with it and so little right with it. I sat down with my lovely lady wife and I said, let's watch the opening scene from the 24-year-old film, The Lord of the Rings. Let's get going, boys. What's that one called? The Fellowship of the Ring. The Lord of the Rings, let's get going.
Why we go on a walk, lads?
Come on. Fucking hop to it, lads. Come on. Jesus Christ. It's been here all fucking day. What was I saying, Ben? We watched the opening scene where the elves... Ben, do you remember when the elves were on the Battle of the Last Alliance and they've got that cool kind of almost thin leaf, kind of half plate, half kind of lamellar armor, and they have those cool kind of not quite samurai hand and a half short sword things, and they have fabulous kind of leaf like shields and they look amazing. And then in the like $1 billion per season. Ben, the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Everyone's fucking helmets are too big. No one's fucking armor fits. So you've got these poor fucking dweebs. And some of those elves are very short. They don't quite have, let's say, not thin elves, but there's a lot more diversity of body type in the elves in this than there was in the Lord of the Rings movie. They didn't quite stretch to overweight elves, but I think we're only a season or two away from it. But no one's fucking helmet fits. Everyone's helmet's too big. So you have these poor dweebs trying to look like noble, elegant elves in ill-fitting armor in a show that cost $1 billion per season. How did they get it so wrong? It looks like Xena. And they made Xena for the cost of a packet of fags.
Today. Yeah.
Yeah, in modern money.
Yeah, that's so dreadfully disappointing.
I was just furious, Ben. I was furious watching it go, I can't believe they've done this. I cannot believe that they have done this.
Do you know what, Michael? You'll probably never let go of that fury.
Oh, well, I've forgotten about it already because that segue was so buttery smooth. Anyway, Ben. Benjamin, are you familiar with the YouTube personality Ryan George?
Yeah, I love him.
I'm going to steal a little bit from him and I'm going to do a pitch to you. So, Ben.
Yeah.
You're Netflix executive, right? I hear you like... No, don't do a Ryan George impersonation. We'll go down a rabbit hole. It'll be a disaster. Benjamin, Mr. Netflix executive, we hear you love horror films where the concept can be summed up with an instruction for the audience. Like,
I do.
Don't blink, or be quiet now, or don't go over there. Well, we've got one for you now. It's never let go of this rope.
Listen, Michael, the best thing that ever happened to the horror genre, or the horror churning wheel, if you want, is the knowledge that verbs make great titles.
Yeah. Bird Box.
not a verb.
Is it not? I thought it was like, go bird box that fella.
Go bird that box.
No, go bird box him. Whammo.
Well, we got a trailer for Halle Berry's Never Let Go this week. This is the second trailer for this film, Michael. The first one came out months ago. We missed it all together. And Michael, it has one of my favourite things.
What is it?
An entire horror premise set around a ludicrously impractical MacGuffin or rule of thumb, a la, don't take the blindfold off.
Yeah,
but this is even... like, I don't mind some of them, Michael. You've got classic forced circumstance horror. For example, in Cloverfield, don't go outside.
Yeah, don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Be quiet.
Shush now.
Don't be doing
Shush
that.
now, be quiet in the film. Shush now, be quiet.
I could that classic Irish horror film where American authors are transformed into beasts that prey on the Irish. But Michael, we saw it again in Bird Box. You know, don't be taking off that blindfold. Don't be doing it. No. Woefully
don't go to the village.
But Michael, we may have peaked. We may have peaked with Never Let Go. In this case, it's don't untie that rope.
There's a magic rope. Hang on to it.
Hang on to that rope. What's the one rule, boys? Says Halle Berry. Never let go, Mom. And Michael, as any good teenager does, they're like, I don't know if Mum is just fucking mental. I'm going to take the rope off. Yeah. And Michael, shenanigans ensue. It's a fucking disaster.
It's a fucking disaster. I love the working title for Don't Let Go of That Rope. Benjamin.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing about this trailer is that they've done a thing with the text where it slowly crawls across the font, the words of the mantra slowly crawl across the screen like a copyright watermark.
It was, I think it's supposed to be a rope, Michael.
Is it a rope? Is that was why it was all wibbly wobbly? I've only figured it out now.
But I think it might be one of those classic things of where one guy, I'm going to take it to be the advertising exec's son, pitched it. And everyone was like, oh, that's a great idea, Tom, son of the executive. And the executive's like, brilliant, my boy is brilliant. And they're like, yeah, all right, we'll stick it in the
It's
trailer.
going to scroll across the middle, is it? Just obtrusively across the middle while there's something going on screen. So you think you're watching a pirate copy of this trailer.
You wouldn't steal a rope.
You might steal a rope. If you had wanted.
You probably would if you needed it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just rope. Except that rope. If you stole that rope on them, that's a special rope. They'd be real stuck.
Benjamin, what's
Be
the twist
real
going to be
stuck.
that the rope doesn't do anything?
It's just, I reckon Halle Berry's mental, and they're all afraid of stuff. Nah, there's probably a horror element to it somewhere.
Hopefully.
Michael, speaking of inexplicable horror that you can't quite put your finger on it, Sonic 3 got a trailer this week.
Yeah. This is insane. Can't believe this is still going.
It's done so well. It has a TV series. Knuckle got his own TV series, Michael. We never watched it.
Who? Did you just say
Knuckles.
Knuckle? Knuckles. Okay, that's good. With Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
He got a 6-part miniseries.
Yeah, inexplicably popular series. Do you think, Benjamin, this one is going to start with Sonic taking James Morrison out into the woods and accidentally killing him?
I
that's-
hope so.
Usually what happens to James Morrison in the third entrance in the series.
Yeah, he just gets written off.
Yeah.
He just gets written off, Michael. And that'll be good, won't it? Like, that'll be fun.
He's
We
kinda
love a
useless now.
good Marsoning.
Yeah, get rid of him. Get rid of James Morrison. Anyway, Ben, I suppose the only real thing of note of this, Shadow the Hedgehog's in it. Who cares? Shadow the Hog. Yeah, it's broken my brains. Shadow the
Classic
Hedgehog.
Irishman.
Yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog came about in the 2005-ish era, I think, when I had lost interest in Sonic. So Shadow the Hedgehog means nothing to me. Does he mean anything to you?
He means nothing to me, Michael.
Oh, Vienna. So I couldn't care less about Shadow the Hedgehog, a.k.a. a cooler, edgier, faster Sonic who can teleport and shoot guns and ride motorbikes. Who cares? There's a good gag in it where Knuckles says he's much cooler than the last hedgehog I fought. And Sonic gives him the classic, I'm right here. What am I, chopped liver? You know, that's a good gag. But the real
is.
twist of this whole thing is this seems to be the only films that Jim Carrey has any interest in doing.
Yeah, either they're paying him so much money or he's just having a great time. It could be either.
It could be either. What is going on with Jim Carrey and the Sonic films?
They must just let him do what he wants. They must just, like... it's quite interesting because I do think Jim Carrey is a phenomenal physical actor. Like, he is. There's no denying it. He, like, whether you love or hate Ace Ventura, Liar, Liar, you know, all those films.
The Mask.
The Mask, exactly. His ability to physically embody a character is unparalleled. And for a while there, he got that classic funny man bug where he went, I could be serious if I wanted to be. Adam Sandler does it every once in a while. It throws everybody off because him and Adam Sandler particularly are two guys who fucking nail it every time they do it. Every time they want to go off and be a bit serious, we get films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
A banger.
Diamond Man.
Yes, Diamond Man.
Yeah.
Or Punch Drunk Love from Sandler. And they nail it. But I do think then, because Jim Carrey has been through a lot, both personally and professionally. You know, he's become very jaded with Hollywood in general. But I think this might be a thing that lets him tap into that pure joy of being a physical comedian in a kids' film again.
Yeah, it's great.
And so
I'm going
much
to
so,
keep
Michael,
watching it.
I'll watch anything Jim Carrey is in. But what's more interesting, Michael, is he's loving it so much he's playing two characters in this one.
Yeah, Doctor Robotnik and Doctor Robotnik's dad.
Dad, grandfather. So there's a
Him from the
flurry of
future?
debate on this, Michael.
Go on.
A flurry of debate on this because Dr. Robotnik was not always Dr. Robotnik.
Go on.
And this is an important thing. Dr. Robotnik was originally Eggman.
He's an Eggman.
That was his name, Eggman. And Eggman was very much a mad scientist. He wanted to defeat Sonic the Hedgehog and take over the world, and that was his big deal. He popped up in 1991 for the first time, as old as I am, Michael, not in a Sega game, or not in a Sonic the Hedgehog game, but in a Sega game called Puzzle Construction.
Go on.
And his initial concept art is a bit mental. He's got the mustache and the round shape and the robots, but he was a man who only wore pajamas, Michael, in the original thing.
Did he live in central Dublin?
There he is there. I'll show you a little picture of him. He's real cute. That was him.
Cute little fella.
Back in the day. So that was Eggman. And then over the years, Michael, it changed. So he was called Dr. Eggman. And then
not Dr. Eggman. Dr.
Eggman. Well, Dr. Eggman. It could have been either. But Michael, as with all Japanese games, eventually they have to make that great immigration to the United States. And in a classic bit of Americanization, Dean Sitton took a look at the name of the villain for the Sonic franchise and said, I don't like it. It's not good enough. What does he do? And one of the creatives said, oh, he builds robots. Robots, huh? Well, let's call him Dr. Robot. And they were like, I don't know. And he was like, what's going on right now? And they're like, well, we still don't like the Russians too much. And he goes, okay, Ivo, we'll call him Ivo. And then how do you make a last name Russian? You put a Nick on the end. Doctor Robotnik. Dr. Ivo Robotnik. And that was Dean Sitton. And he said, that's what we'll do. So
Stan Lee. Was Stan Lee spitting in his grave?
I hope so. Dean Sitton and Stan Lee were cousins. And they just sat around doing stuff like that all the time. So, yeah. And the best part about this was, Michael, I read while I was doing a bit of research for this was the guys at Sega, originally it was a guy called Takashi Lizuka. He was the head of the development team for Sonic. And when he sent his characters over to America, he wasn't told there was going to be any change. And so it came out in America, and he went to the premiere as the kind of development core team. And they revealed this character of Dr. Ivo Robotnik. And he went, what? That's Eggman. That's my Dr. Eggman.
Is that how you translate that into English?
And I
don't speak English as well as I thought I did.
He was apparently neither told nor consulted on this change. And so there's an interesting thing happening here, Michael. And some fans are hoping for a bit of a deep cut play where this older Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, is going to be Eggman. And the younger Robotnik is going to be Jim Carrey.
Feckin' Sonic fans.
But, Michael, that's going to have to round us out because he's an egg. Do you get it?
He's an egg. Yeah, famously not round, but all right, go on.
It's rounded.
It's rounded, but I mean, it's egg shaped. It's literally, it's created its own shape. Egg shaped.
Right.
Oval.
All right.
From the Latin
you
oval.
Pernickety little.
And I would know because I'm Spotosonicus.
You are Spotosonicus, ladies and gentlemen. For more shenanigans from the Sherlock podcast, there are a few different ways you can get in touch with us. As we said already, we need your contribution. We need your support. Not financially, but knowledgeably. We don't have any money. We're very poor. This doesn't actually go out anywhere. It's just two men with unconnected microphones screaming into the void. But come here to me, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, as I said to you previously, we'll be doing a fantastic second edition of our brand new series, Bloody Quintessential.
Oh, how exciting.
And this time we'll be taking a look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So we want your picks for the essence of episodes, the spirit of, the soul of the show. Not necessarily the best.
Not necessarily your top 5.
Not necessarily your top 5. Not a logical section of picks. It could be one that you just think really nails parts of that show's soul. That's what we want to hear from you. There are a few different places you can do that. You can get in touch with us. www.sherlockshirlistenpodcast.com. No, you can't.
Don't though. It's probably not going to exist for much longer.
Yeah, we're probably going to do away with that because we're under a little bit of a... We're doing one of our classic rebrands, ladies and gentlemen. We do them about every 2 years. When nothing else works, we decide maybe we just change everything to see if that works. You can also find us on our actually functioning website, www.sherlockshirlistenpodcast.acast.com.
Yay!
Or you can find us on Instagram at sherlockshirlistenpodcast.
Yep, do. It makes Ben very happy.
You can find us on our fastest growing platform, TikTok, at Sherlock.
That's where Ben gets most of his dopamine or serotonin or cortisol.
That's pretty much it.
Don't know which one it is. Testosterone.
It's all there. all there. You can also find us, ladies and gentlemen, on Substack now, which is linked below in the description. You can leave us comments there as well.
Don't know what that is. I'm going to have to
Doesn't know what
poke
that
around
is, ladies
see
and
what it
gentlemen.
is.
Doesn't know what that is. But ladies and gentlemen,
Yes?
the best way for you to get in touch with us is to hop up on the Discord. It's absolutely free. Down below in the description, you can join a lovely community of people who care about pop culture as much as we do. It's as surprising to us as it is to you to hear it, but it's a lovely community. Hop on up on it.
Hop up on it. It's great stuff. We're talking about Buffy. We're talking about All-Star Superman. We're talking about we're talking about what's our next Exhumed, Ben?
Oh, we haven't done it yet. We haven't put our poll up yet, Michael.
We're talking about our next Exhumed. We don't know what it is.
But you'll get to pick if you're on the Discord.
Yeah, exactly. Get up on it. See you next week. Woo!
Siomra beag.